Three, two, one, go. Hello, this is Tom, aka Gedeon here for Tabletop Tap Room. And today is part 2 of our examination of X Cards. First one was just a pre-recorded video. I'm in between work shifts, and so I'm not going to have time to do the post-production. So we're going to just cut to the chase with a live stream and wing it. And we're going to be looking at the why of X Cards. Why did people feel X Cards were necessary? We're not going to be proposing, taking one stand or another. I'm gonna propose an alternate way of dealing with the X Card issue. And I have failed to do my share screen. We'll just get that set up. So, share. There we go. So, X Cards. The part 1, we reviewed Venger Satanis's alt X Cards and said they were nothing of the sort. Possibly a slick marketing ploy on his part. A little bit of satire of the whole X Card movement, I think, but he, rightly identified as story cards by the RPG pundit. I called it as story cards, and Venger actually did admit in a comment to me, the dirty little secret of Venger Satanis is that he likes story gaming. Story gaming might not like Venger, story gamers, but that's his problem, not mine. I just thought his little admission was funny, and certainly he sparked this examination of the whole X Card movement. I found videos going back as far as 6 months. Some people are very for it, like, ooh, shiny, check this out, new thing, we should all use this. And then there are people who are like, are you kidding me? X Cards, full disclosure, X Cards are not for me. I'm not interested in using them, but I'm not here to trash them. I want to examine the question of why some people felt they were necessary. I think that's an excellent question. And if we just approach it from the perspective of this is stupid and we don't learn anything. So it might not be for us. We might not like X Cards. We might not be interested in X Cards and using them. But I think the question of why some people felt they were necessary is an important question to ask. And as I asked myself this and I began to think about it, a answer began to present in my brain, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I think the examination can benefit us, even though we might not be interested in using X Cards. So just a quick review of what X Cards are. They're a card. Now, this is a product I found on drive-thru for free, just to have as a show and tell. This is just a one-page PDF. You've got a picture of a lion. He kind of looks like he's in paladin armor to me. And, it's plate mail and a shield. He's a lion. Him being a lion implies nobility, king of the beast. But he's got bat wings. So it's kind of an interesting fusion of paladin and hell. The ultimate good guy, goody two-shoes, the paladin, and the devils, which are not the ultimate bad guy because they're lawful good. They're not chaotic evil. Hey, Elfbait, thanks for coming by. And so this is, not my favorite X card, even though I'm not in favor of X Cards. I'm on the wrong page screen here. Here we go. So I found this one. It's a one-page PDF. I actually liked this one. I thought this was slick, intuitive, because some games actually do you hand out playing cards, and and you might actually have playing cards for activation. Some war games actually, some war game sets I actually have on my computer have a war game set. Lion-headed devil is a thing. Oh, did not know. I just thought it was an interesting fusion of the paladin and hell. So I liked this because it's not uncommon that you would have playing cards. Playing cards are like universal. And so for an X card set, I thought this was great. Although, heart, you just flash a heart, it says thank you. You flash a diamond, it says involve me. I don't like that one because it feels like I'm begging, please role play with me. Please involve me. I hate that one. But I like the presentation here because it was simple, spade for stop, club for move on. So I thought this was probably one of the better ones. This one I hated, the safety calibration cards. And I'll tell you why I hated it. I absolutely hate this one. Here's 6 cards. On the back is their explanation. Here's 6 cards. On the back is their explanation. Here's 6 more cards and 1 card. 19 cards. This is way too fiddly. I just, it's too much to keep track of. And some of these are variations on a theme. To me, it's just stupid. You just look, honestly, the index card with an X on it, I think was probably enough. So Elf Bates, I feel X cards can be useful in playing with strangers and pickup games. Maybe, yes, possibly, but I'm going to get at that. I want to get at that. I want to right now, I'm just reviewing, the diamond, the card suits are too abstract. I don't know. I prefer simpler. I do not like the 19 cards because here's what's going to happen. You're going to start shuffling through them, checking which one. And so everybody's going to see you doing that. And they're going to be like, all right, here we go. Stoppage. I think it's going to make it an even bigger production. And so to me, these are fiddly and I don't like them. Of course, I don't have to use them all. And, they would be a nightmare to implement. I think they would be. And I meant the 19 cards are too abstract. I looked at this and I just thought, God bless, this is just too complicated. The playing cards are better. Absolutely. So I just wanted to show some of them. And one of the videos I reviewed from 6 years ago, that was Roll for Initiative, the woman with the blonde hair. She just held up an index card with an X on it. I thought, at the time that was probably like, everybody was like, ooh, and now people are looking to, let's have a product we can put a pay what you want on it. I don't know. But here's what I really wanted to get to. I just wanted to review them just to say, this is what's out there. I did find one they wanted money for. I did not buy it because I'm never going to use it. And I just didn't want to, I figured to save the $5 for something else. And, but I want to look at the question of why did people feel it was necessary? Why did people feel they needed to have a mechanism to protect themselves? Why did they feel that there was it was necessary to have a safety tool for protection? That is the thing I want to get at. And so I got to preface this by saying my opinion. I'm going to spout my opinion right now, and you are absolutely free to disagree. And cool. But everyone wants to reinvent the wheel. Well, you see somebody else, well, geez, that guy's making money. I could make money doing that too. I see so many good t-shirt designs and I'm like, I want to steal that. Like Alan Taylor had a great one of Sasquatch done as like the missing kids on the milk carton. Have you seen me? Call the National Society for lost cryptids. I absolutely thought it was great. I'm like, oh man, I could so do that. And so yeah, everybody wants to reinvent the wheel. And I so often see stuff I want to steal and put it on my Cafe Press store. But looking at X cards and and I think that there has been some sociological drivers going on in our society. I know that's a big word. Dropping the Scrabble words here today. And so and I think it's because we now live in a post-Christian era. What do I mean by that? That traditionally in America, you've had a very dominant moral code represented by the Judeo-Christian ethic has been very dominant in America. That's a historic fact. We don't even have to argue about that. It's been very dominant in America, so much so that there was even a time in America where you could walk into a public school and you could see the 10 Commandments posted on the wall. They'd be printed, posted on the wall, and nobody batted an eye. It was not objected to. Well, it might have been objected to by students who didn't like it, but you could see it there that it was presented on the wall. And I almost said Abraham Lincoln. George Washington famously said something, I'm going to misquote it, that we have staked our future, we have staked our lives, we have staked our civilization on our ability to obey the 10 Commandments. And he wasn't saying that you must be religious, you must be Judeo-Christian. He was actually just saying that we have a constitution, we have laws, but honestly, for us to survive as a civil, social society, we must be able to self-regulate. And that self-regulation takes the form of a moral code. He didn't say it that way, but I think if he was here today, he'd be like, yeah, that's what I said. He would agree with the sentiment that I think that's what he was getting at with his quote, that we must be able to. And so you've had this push of a rejection of the past and of moral codes of the past, where somebody grows up, they're made to go to church, and they, I'm 18 now, I do what I want, I ain't going to church. There's been so you get that process. You have people who have don't put your religion on me, don't put your stuff on me. But honestly, a moral code is not necessarily a religion, because I've met tons of people in life who were not religious, but they certainly followed a moral code where they would say, I don't kill people. I'm not interested in killing people. I'm not interested in raping people. I'm not interested in, I don't molest children. I don't steal. I don't do X, Y, and Z. They do follow a moral code, but you do have this erosion, this process of erosion, because we do live in a post-Christian era where there's been a pushing and a pushback on the religion of the past, the dominant religions here in America. And so you begin to get some erosion of the moral fabric of America. I don't think many of you would possibly argue with me about that. So what happens with that is that if you get an erosion of the standards of self-regulation, people begin to self-regulate less. And that's not saying that they're immoral, because, look, I know tons of people never murdered anybody, but their self-regulation is a little bit less. I had a neighbor in Dedham, Massachusetts, who, I would say 97% of that neighborhood was Roman Catholic. And this guy, very obviously, you could tell by his last name, he was of an ethnicity, 99% likely he came from a Roman Catholic family. He was not overtly religious. And while he was not out murdering people, he was not out raping people, he was not robbing banks, he was not doing all that, his self-regulation was a little bit less. He was a little bit less religious. And one of the things he was famous for in the neighborhood was playing his music a little too loud. He just chose not to self-regulate. He played a little too loud. Friday, Saturday night, 10 a.m. During the week, I've worked a night shift. I've come home. I'm trying to sleep. Music's up loud. And occasionally he'd throw beer cans and they'd land on other people's lawns. And I would not I would not confront with him. I would just pick up the beer cans, put them in the recycling, and collect his nickel with the rest of my, soda cans. But, he was a little obnoxious. And, then we had another family move in. They were not like the rest. Sesame Street, one of these things ain't like the others. And I'm not going to say what they were because it's irrelevant. But I remember one of the neighbors saying to me, "Are you okay with them?" Because they were weird. They were different, and they presented as weird. But they were religious. And I said, they don't play music loud when I'm trying to sleep after working the night shift, and they don't throw beer cans on my lawn. So sure, they look a little weird because of their religious practice, but I'm okay with them as neighbors. I'm okay with them. They have a stricter moral code. They don't celebrate holidays. They don't do this. They don't do that. I'm okay with not having to pick up beer cans, and I'm okay with them not, blasting music. And when I said it that way to them, they kind of that neighbor looked at me and they knew who I was referencing the other guy. They knew I was pointing a finger at the other guy, and they're like, "Yeah, I guess I'm okay with them too." And that was a little bit of a turning point in that family being accepted in the neighborhood. So they had a moral code different than mine. They followed a religious practice different than everybody in the neighborhood, and everybody thought they were weird. But they actually they were good neighbors. And I was okay with that. And this guy came from the traditional Judeo-Christian background, but he was not very religious, but he was not overtly immoral, but he, the erosion of his religious practice that he no longer followed overtly, I'm sure he probably went to weddings and funerals, maybe he'd go with his mother to Christmas mass, midnight mass, that type of thing. He was not so fun to have as a neighbor, and that made him unfun because of that things. And you see this process. We got a comment here. Let me throw this in. True, but it seems like the drive for regulation comes from more than an anti-religious than religious. I'm just pointing out that you've had this trend where people regulate less, and now in the internet, you have people who just don't regulate at all. They're the keyboard warriors. They're behind a computer screen. I can say anything. I can do anything. And if you got that person in public, I doubt they would say some of those things to your face. I'm thinking very famously, somebody I like to report on. I heard a story where somebody walked into his little store in Wisconsin and got right in his face during his first little con that he was running, and invited him to step outside. And he's like, and he did some self-regulation. No, I don't do that. So he had that little confrontation, and he's famous for not regulating. He's famous for trolling on the internet. He's famous for his attacks. But somebody in his face, suddenly he found the ability to self-regulate. And I think part of this whole process is that people have pulled away from traditional values. And I'm not saying that you're not free to do that. I'm saying that it's that other people are worried about getting into the game and dealing with somebody who doesn't self-regulate, who is, we've all been there. Like I've brought my kids to the wargaming, the hobby bunker. It was in Malden, Mass. It's now I forget the town it's in, but it's moved. But the Wargaming Club was there. They put up a lot of tables in the store, dedicated a lot of store space to tables, and sponsored wargaming. And to bring my kids, and my kids loved going there. They called it the little man store because all the little men. And somebody start telling off-color jokes, and you'd have to speak up and say, hey, there's kids here. Oh, sorry. They fail to read the room and go, oh, there's little kids here. There's little girls here. I shouldn't be telling that joke. It's, and I think that it is this whole process that's been going on in our society is the thing that has sponsored the need for somebody to say, I need a safety tool because I don't know how you're going to behave. That's what I think the why is for the safety tools and the X cards, is this whole process. And I am not saying that we need safety tools. I'm not in favor of using them in my game. I'm more in favor of that there's a golden rule. And that golden rule is not necessarily Judeo-Christian. It's, you can point to ideas in Hinduism and Buddhism and say, hey, karma. Karma's phrased a little differently, but karma, the idea of karma actually really is the golden rule. The golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, karma's about, we've adopted karma, and what's the famous saying? Karma's a bitch. You do that stuff, karma's a bitch, boy. She's gonna bite you. And so Jerry says, and yet tabletop RPGs get us into that space where we could, where we would self-regulate. Maybe people are just out of practice. There's a. My wife says to me a lot, read the room. You're not reading the room. There's a lot of nerds out there who are socially awkward. There's a lot of people in our space, in our hobby, who are just not, they're socially awkward and they don't read the room, and they'll just tell a joke because, hey, I think this joke is funny. Like one time I'm on a construction site. Now you think a construction site, I'm used to construction sites being a little more coarse, a little more vulgarity on the construction site. I worked in, okay, so I'm on this construction site and I heard a funny joke, and it was a funny joke and it had a child molester in the joke. Okay. And you might say, well, the joke was actually funny. So I just thought I'd tell it. And my partner was like, yeah, shut up, dude. And the reason why he was telling me to shut up, dude, you need to shut up, was because the other team that had been paired with us for that day, both of them were like card carrying sex offenders. So I didn't know. So that joke was actually probably really inappropriate, even though it probably most construction sites people would have just laughed and it was, just been funny. And so I was like, oh, okay, we're going to strip that joke out of our repertoire and not repeat it because I just got in trouble over it. But it was a funny joke, and I won't repeat it here. Yes. If your game needs an X card, then you have problems, and X cards isn't going to solve them. I think if you self-regulated, like I'm going to be nice to people. I'm going to be a good person. I'm going to be good to people because I'm hopeful that they will be good back to me. And you follow the do unto others as you have them doing. If you're following the golden rule and you're trying to be a good person, I don't think that there would be a need for an X card. But I certainly don't want, I also, my issue with the X card is I don't think there needs to be an overt stoppage of the game. I think that uh, the first rule of leadership is to praise in public and reprimand in private. And I use that principle even when I'm not the leader and I'm the underling. That if I have a problem with the boss, I don't just call him out publicly. I will go in his office and say, hey, you said this to me publicly in front of everybody, and I really kind of have an issue with that because that's something we should have discussed in private. And I've had bosses who've been like, you're right, I apologize. And I've had bosses, well, and they did not like being confronted. And I just put that as a little notation, like, maybe I don't need to stay at this job. This guy's unprofessional. And we're obviously going to have a problem. And I've just looked for another job. But, so I prefer communication. I prefer to try to communicate with people. And so if I had a problem with the game, like, I have a cousin who committed suicide. So and I'm not really triggered by suicide, but let's just say for, the themes were going into suicide heavily. It was making me uncomfortable. I would not say anything up front, but afterwards, just between me and the dungeon master, be like, I'm a little uncomfortable with this because of my cousin. The emotions are still raw. If he said, oh, I'm sorry. Next session, don't worry about it. If that was his response, then it's good. And we've not interrupted the game. We've not involved the 6 other players. It was quietly taken care of between me and the dungeon master. That is my preference. And so that is why I'm not interested in big delay of game. We got to do an instant replay and re-edit this content because I'm triggered. It's the game master's game. He is also free to say, well, I'm really interested in this game. And you have some games that content's baked into them. I mean, like Chalt, Venger Satanis is Chalt. I mean, it's gonzo, it's sleaze, it's, grindhouse exploitation. It's, it's a lot of things. All that is baked in there. And if you're triggered by the sleaze, like I'm not comfortable with the sleaze, so you're just not going to catch me playing in Chalt. I'm just not interested in it. I'm not going to have fun with it. So why should I be holding up an X card and going, we got to edit this because I'm uncomfortable? No, I'm just not going to play. That's his game. He can run it. It's baked into it. Mothership. I have Mothership adventure material. It comes with content warnings, which makes me laugh. It's warning you. There's suicide. There's bodily mutilation. There's bodily invasion. Like aliens implanting things in your body. There's violence. There's graphic violence. There's and Mothership adventures come with these warnings on them. Which, that's some of that stuff could be very triggering. I don't know anybody who did self-mutilation, but I can imagine, if I had a regular player at my game and 10 years ago, they used to have a problem with self-cutting. Maybe Mothership would not be the game. We're a regular game group. Mothership is probably not the regular game. Or I might discuss it with them, say, hey, I was really interested in this game, but I see that it has this in it. Is this a problem? If they say yes, the friendship's more important. The friendship's more important. So no, we're not doing that game. I'll play that game at a convention. They're playing Mothership here. I'm going to sit in on that game and I'll scratch my itch that way. So some games have that content baked into them. And so what's the point of the X card? You knew that game had that content going in. I don't see the point of the X card going, oh, I'm triggered that we have we have bodily mutilation here in this game. You knew that going in. You know what Venger Satanis' game stands for. You know that going in. So, I didn't know like Shadowrun had some things in it. First game I played in, I was like, ooh, I'm not comfortable with this. Waited to the end of the game, said something to the people involved. I says, wow, this is hitting a little close to something that happened to somebody, friend of my mother, and I'm not comfortable with it. And they were like, yeah, this is kind of this game, and I was like, yeah, I'm out. I played one game of Shadowrun, I was out, and I was okay with that. And then I stole ideas from Shadowrun left and right for my Star Frontiers game. Let me see here. Chthonic Musings. Yes, if your game needs oh no, I did read your comment. So I think the reason it's come about all of a sudden now in the past 7 years, people are being triggered. I think people are worried about the behavior of others, but I think justly so. I don't think they're off base to have been like, I'm concerned about the behavior of others, so therefore I want these safety tools, or I think these safety tools would be a good idea. I don't think they're off base. I think that there's been a trend in our society that has led people to be a little less self-regulatory. That's they've rejected traditional things. I think you have more and more people who are socially awkward in our society. I don't know why, but I think that that's also a trend, and they just don't think about, and when they get in trouble because they were socially awkward and they said something they really shouldn't have, and they get in trouble, then they learn, hopefully some of us learn, I shouldn't have done that. I won't do that next time. Like my example with the joke that involved the pedophile. I was telling the joke in front of people who were on the sex offender registry. It was probably not the right place. And then I kind of just realized, all right, the topic of this joke's really bad. I shouldn't repeat it, even though I did think it was funny. And it was all right, Tom, you were socially awkward, you were dumb. Don't do that again. And so you learn from that, but I think 7 years, increasingly intolerant. Yeah, I think people are more and more intolerant of each other. I think that is a driving trend in our society, Jerry. And so my solution is, my solution is whatever, even if you're not religious, I think most people do have a moral code, like I said, I've known plenty of religious people who are not murderers. You could say that part of their moral code is not killing people. Could there be a circumstance if you ran over his kids with a car, or killed his wife or killed his kid, that guy might turn to murder? Yeah, maybe. But by and large, barring unusual circumstances, that guy's got a moral code. Murder's bad. Driving 90 miles an hour in the school zone's bad. Rape is bad. Bro code. Bro code. Hey, I don't look at my best buddy's girlfriend. She's off limits. Don't look at her. Now, if they break up, might be a different story, but it's bro code, man. I don't even go there, because that's my bro. So that's a moral code. That's, I think the answer is that, maybe we should articulate what our moral code is, and we should articulate that, hey, I am not here to necessarily be an ass. I'm not here to harm people. I'm here to game. I'm here to have a good time, and I want everybody at my table to have a good time. And if that means I avoid a topic that's okay for me, Like if it's okay for you to drink alcohol, but you got a friend over and they're in recovery, not a good time to break out alcohol, right? Not a good time for that. That would be inappropriate. I'm having you over for supper. I'm okay with having a glass of wine, but you're in recovery. I'm not having wine. That's just respectful. That's just being respectful. That's just being a good friend. Why would I put a challenge in front of you? That wouldn't be a very good friend to me to do that. So I think the answer is just about that we need to potentially articulate what our code is a little bit more, invest some thought. 40 years ago, it was just do the 10 commandments, just be a good person. But with the gradual erosion of that a little bit, I think we need to get back to thinking about what our code is, whatever it is. It could be based in Buddhism. It could be based in Islam. It could be based in the Judeo-Christian. It just could be, I like the Boy Scout law. Scout is courteous, kind, trustworthy, whatever the code is that you're going to live by, and that we treat each other with kindness. We treat people the way we want to be treated. I think that's what the answer is. And I'm just not interested in having delay of game, because I think delay of game is a little bit disrespectful to the other players that are there. Oh, we got to have a stoppage of the game, and I've got limited time to game. I'm just not interested in going there. That's me. Jerry, got to get back to work. Good vid, Tom. Thank you. Appreciate the compliment. And I've pretty much covered the topic. Like I said, I was doing the live stream purely because I'm on limited time. I got to go back to work, and I knew I wouldn't have time for post-production, but I wanted to get part 2 out on the X cards. So just to wrap up, I believe the need for X cards is that people are less likely to self-regulate because we're in a post-Christian era, because there's been pushback on the moral codes and religious systems of the past. And so you've got people who feel a little more free on the internet to do and say anything. And I think this has bled into gaming. I think we all have seen it where somebody has just said something and you're like, in your head, you're thinking, dude, shut up. We've all been there. I think we've all seen it. And I think the answer is that we need to be a little more conscious of, let's just show respect. Let's be good people to each other. Let's live by the golden rule. And then you don't need this X card. If I'm living by the golden rule and I'm trying to be a good person to you, you're not going to need the X card. There will be no need for it in the game. And so I think that's the why that they were necessary. And I don't want to discount the why. I'm not interested in using them. And I don't want to just go, X cards are stupid. I want to understand the why. And the why puts me a little bit more on notice to be a little bit more kind, to not be so, as my wife would put it, assholey. And I think because of the rising intolerance in our society, I think the answer is let's try to be a little more tolerant. Let's try to be a little more kind. Why not? We all just want to have fun. We're here to game. We're here to gather around the gaming table. Let's just be good to each other. So that's my 2 cents. That's my opinion. I'm sure somewhere, sometime, I'll probably get a troll in the comments on the video. Oh well. But yeah, that's what I think is the reason for the why of X cards. Not interested in them, but I think I understand the why, and I think the issue behind the why should push us to be better people. And I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with the need to be a better person. So that's my challenge. What do you guys think? So this is Tom signing out for Tabletop Tap Room. Thanks for watching the video, and thanks to my subscribers. And go out there and let's just be respectful to each other. Let's be kind. Let's be good people. One last comment. I'd like to throw up an X card for the discussion. Going against the X card is trigger. There might be a reason why your name is Bullet Catcher. I think metaphorical, not literal bullets come back at you from time to time. All right. And on that note, signing out.